Welcome back into the PowerMizzou.com podcast. Gabe DeArmond here. Our weekly preview show, previewing Missouri's football opponent every week of the season. Last week, a 51-0 winner over Murray State. This week, the University of Buffalo. Our preview shows are brought to you every single week by the oldest brewery in America, or should I say America's oldest brewery. There is a difference in that wording, I understand. Yuengling. You can check them out at Yuengling.com. Better yet, just go anywhere in the state of Missouri, gas station, liquor store, grocery store, whatever. Pick yourself up some Yuengling. Get it to Faurot Field by about 6 o'clock on Saturday night when Mizzou faces the University of Buffalo. And our guest this week to talk about the Bulls, a guy who spent a few Saturdays on this side of Missouri football games, Buffalo Athletic Director Mark Alnutt. Mark, what's going on, man? Appreciate you joining us.
No, Gabe, thanks for having me, man. Everything's going well.
So you were just saying in our extensive pre-show meeting, which lasted a good 25, 30 seconds, that you were entering your 7th year at Buffalo. But this job is, and we'll talk about some of it a little bit later, this job can't be anything like what it was when you took it 7 years ago with everything going on in college sports.
No, obviously things have changed, and I feel that, with these changes, institutions such as the University of Buffalo, such as Mizzou, you have to adapt, you have to pivot, you have to change with the times. You can't sit back and complain, as I tell our head coaches and head coaches meetings, we can't sit back and woe is me, the transfer portal, this, NIL, this, okay. It's how can we adapt? How can we adjust? And how can we continue to field a competitive team within the Mid-American Conference that will give us access for whatever postseason opportunities might be. So, plenty of changes, but, the good thing is that, I'm very, confident in our staff, our coaches, our student athletes that, they're learning how to adapt and learn to compete at a high level.
So most people watching this are going to know you played football at Mizzou. You got your start in administration at Mizzou. I think at one point you held every job in the athletic department, pretty much, or the football program. So I know you've been back here with the visiting team before. I believe when you were at SEMO, you made a couple trips. Maybe I'm wrong, but what do you think what's it like when you're on the other side of it? Obviously, look, you've got your allegiances now. You want your team to win, but what's it like coming back to Mizzou, with a different school?
So this is actually going to be the first time that I'm coming back as an opposing, athletic director. Scheduled the game SEMO, scheduled the game Memphis, but obviously your career moves you to the next spot. Yeah, I was there, gosh, and my year might be off. Maybe it's 2013, 2014 men's basketball SEMO. When I was at SEMO, we had a game, up in Columbia, and just that feeling going into the arena and seeing. At that time, fairly new or fairly removed from Mizzou. You saw a lot of the staff members, you saw a lot of donors that you spent some time, talking to them. Going back, the thing that I know I'm going to admire most is just the progress that's taken place. Not only at Faurot Field, Memorial Stadium, but just campus in general and the athletic facilities. I've had a chance to. Visit in passing, going back to visit family in Kansas City. And when my one oldest son was at SEMO, cutting through to Columbia, visiting friends and stopping by, seeing the facilities. I was there last year with my one son, went to football camp. And, at that time they were about to open the football only indoor facility. So, I'm excited. And of course, as you get close to the game, and appreciate you reaching out to get me on this podcast, but teammates out there reaching out to me asking if I'm gonna be in and what my plans are going to be Friday night and up into the game and everything else. So it's going to be one where I'm proud to be leading our program into Mizzou, but really just have that opportunity to step back, catch up with some old friends. See everything that's happened in Columbia and really catch up with Laird Veach. Known Laird for a long time. We were neighbors back when we lived, both of us lived in Southwest Columbia, and, so excited for him to be able to get that opportunity to become AD at Mizzou.
Do you still keep in touch with Laird somewhat regularly? I mean, have you talked to him since he's been back here?
Yeah, no, we have a we have a Alden's Army group text, right? And
Okay.
that group text, obviously Laird, myself, Maggart. I mean, all these names you're gonna know, Gabe. Whether it's Whit Babcock, Ross, Mark Ingram, Mario Mocha. So like all of us have this group text, and we always shoot things, back and forth, and so again, it's one of those situations where we stay, in close contact, and again admire each other's work from a distance, but also have the opportunity to connect as well.
Well, I was just talking. So last week, Murray State's here, and their AD, Nico Yanko, obviously got his start here under Mike as well. Like, I think like a quarter of the schools in the country have ADs that started here under Mike Alden. I mean, that's seriously though got to be a thing that all you guys take a lot of pride in, and that I'm sure Mike takes a lot of pride in too.
No, he does. I mean, the thing about it is, Mike was a great mentor, but also a true friend. I mean, we're actually going to catch up Saturday morning prior to the game. It'd be good to catch up with him and spend some time. But he taught us so much, about this business. And the good thing about it is, like, we're not all just cookie cutters, of him. We're each different along the way. We each took, obviously what he taught us, is kind of spent it, our own way, our own personality, our own style, and been able to have some success. And we owe it. At least I can't speak for them, but I know they would say the same thing. Owe it, to him and his really his servant leadership that allowed us to do so well when we were all at Mizzou, and then be able to take, that skill set for me to SEMO, to Memphis, and then now Buffalo.
So I know when you go back, whether it's Columbia or somewhere else, anytime you go back to the place you went to school at, the number one thing is there's some place I got to eat. So what's the place you got to hit when you're in Columbia this weekend?
Man, you know what? This is a donor trip for us, and I wanted to get into Addison's downtown, but they don't have a back room, a space, so we're going to actually go to Addison South. Which the craziest thing about that, Gabe, is that area developed so much. Where it's located is literally like right across the street from the house I lived in for 7 years in Columbia. So, that's one. Of course, I don't have enough time, but gosh, would love to hit Murray's. Would love to get a slice of pizza at Shakespeare's. Would love to get some wings at CJ's, even though you're probably saying, well, gosh, you're coming from Buffalo. That's the wing capital of the world, so to speak. But, man, would love to get some CJ's wings. So there's a lot of spots that I'd like to hit up. But, I think the main thing is just really having an opportunity to catch up with old friends and coworkers and just kind of determining where, that time takes us.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you a little bit about the team you guys are bringing in here. You guys hired Pete Limbo. He's been really successful a lot of places. Eli Drinkwitz was very complimentary of him on Tuesday and his track record to kind of rebuild and things. So what was it about Coach Limbo you liked when you hired him in January?
Well, obviously we were a little late in the cycle, and our previous coach, when we went through this process 3 years ago, Pete was one of the people that I talked to in the end, and I went a different direction. And then when this opportunity came up, perfectly the reason why he was hired so quickly, he was one of a few names that I just contacted directly. No search firms needed, anything like that. I knew him from the interview process before, and then also just previous encounters, and then very similar, which said Eli, just how people spoke so highly of him. And then when you look at his track record of number one, being a head coach, there's some value in that. Second thing, understanding the MAC when he was at Ball State and was successful there. And really, I think part of it is just his growth as a coach, after he left Ball State and the stops that he's had. Obviously we just missed each other at Memphis, but I truly believe his last 3 years at South Carolina, being in the SEC, and as we talked earlier on here about how college football has changed, understanding what that change is all about, made him a prime candidate. So I was excited once we had several conversations, and I was able to offer him the position that he accepted, and he brought to this program what I thought he was going to bring to the program, a head coach who's been there, done that, someone that's going to have a high degree of structure, organization, communication. And the thing about Pete too is just his level of engagement. And when we talk about engagement, obviously we're talking about his engagement with the campus community and just Western New York in general. I mean, he is very sincere about getting folks behind our program, creating genuine relationships. And he's the type of person where his first few months here, people come up just like, hey, Mark, I don't know how many games you're going to win, but holy cow, you know what? I want this guy to win because he is that guy. And just his attention to detail to things, whether it's on the football field. Again, we talk about the organization itself, and it's been very important. And then really last but not least is just, our student athletes' response to him. Morale is very high. They know what to expect. There's no surprises. And, that's a team that I know is going to play hard for each other, but more importantly, they're going to play hard for their coach.
What, and I know it's been a little bit up and down the last couple of years, but you guys have had some pretty good years in the MAC. What's your outlook on this team this year and what you hope to see?
Yeah, I think we can surprise some teams. We have the talent from a MAC standpoint to compete with the teams that are in our conference. We've had some success in the past. We've had some outstanding coaches in the past. When you go back to Lance Leipold and obviously, what he did at Buffalo when we worked together, and then now what he's doing at Kansas to, even Maurice Linquist, had the 1 year where we went to a bowl game and won a bowl game, and only his second year as a coach. So, for us, obviously take one game at a time, but also understand too, with the parity of the Mid-American Conference, there's so many athletic departments that are very similar in terms of funding, in terms of resources, in terms of what they can do, where I feel that, we do have an opportunity to compete for championships.
You mentioned Coach Linguist, and look, this is something that we've seen happen a little bit lately, right? He left to take a coordinator job in the SEC. I'm just curious, as an athletic director, that surprise you, or is that something we've seen happen a few times lately? Is that the current landscape, and you see more coaches doing it?
Yeah, you're going to see, more coaches doing it, but I think it just goes back to just really vetting out the candidate when you hire that person and understand, where they are in their career, understand what their wants are, what the career progression looks like, to be able to retain a coach as long as you can. Very similar to again, talk about Lance, and we had a women's basketball coach, Felicia Leggett Jack, who was here for almost 10 years and had a lot of success. So for us, it's an opportunity to know that we're not going to be able to compete with the Mizzous of the world in terms of what we can offer, but make it the best opportunity for them while they're here. Be able to pour into their program the best way we can, where they're appreciative of it, where they're able to grow. And where I would like to see it, if there is that movement, make this job attractive so people can see that, hey, I can come to Buffalo. I don't know too much about the AD and how he's going to treat me. He might not be a good guy to work for, blah blah blah, but there is opportunity for my program to have success, whether I stay here at Buffalo long term, but also the reality of it at least gives me an opportunity to make that next move. So, and that's what we look for. Want a person that's gonna, if they do leave, leave it at a better place than what they inherited.
Right. Talking with Buffalo AD Mark Alnutt for a few more minutes, and it kind of along those same lines, like what happens with those coaches. It's now kind of trickling down to players, right? How from the outside, we get so focused on the Power 5 schools and all that, but especially when that's what we cover every day. But you have to have kind of a special kind of mentality, I think, to be a coach or an administrator at your level, where you understand you need the best players you can get. And if you get players that are too good, reality is, in this day and age, they're probably, most of them aren't staying there. Like, what's that balance like the last couple of years?
Well, we take pride. I think, so many Group of 5 programs take pride in developing, young people and developing that special talent. There's those opportunities, yes, where we're not going to be able to compete from an NIL standpoint, but also there's been cases that, not necessarily news, where, we retain kids. And the reason why we retain kids is, number one, just relationships that are created, with that coaching staff, with the administrators, what have you, but then also the opportunity to be able to provide more, whether it is NIL, whether it is Austin dollars, to where they know that whatever we can provide, they're appreciative of that. So it is that balancing act, but you never shy away from, bringing in the best talent that you can. And then also too, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way street as we look at it, that, we might lose a kid or two, but you know what? We can also pull a kid maybe that was that third stringer or second stringer that wants to be a starter at the Group of 5 level to come to Buffalo and then be able to make an impact, at Buffalo as well. So, again, we're not going to shy away from who we recruit, but we are cognizant, and at least our head's not stuck in the ground, that this can happen. Very similar to, we talked about our former football coach. It can happen to our student athletes as well. But again, just going back to the woe is me, times are difficult here. What are we going to do? Like, have a plan and be able to, recruit off the portal as needed as well.
That's what most successful people are saying. Like, hey, we can sit here and complain about it all we want, but these are the rules. So we got to figure out how to work with them. So as a guy who played Division I football, I'm curious, just your overall, like, are you happy to see these kids getting the opportunities they're getting now? Is it a positive thing for college athletes?
Yeah, I'm happy. We probably just weren't smart enough, Gabe, back in the day, to realize, what the heck is, hey, put that NIL acronym in front of us. We probably spent a day trying to figure out what that stood for, back then. But, when you look back at it, and, obviously we took great pride in putting on the jersey and representing, Mizzou, representing the state of Missouri. And, we just wanted to play football, and get an incredible education at that school, where that was, the back of that was never even, the front of our mind. But, as you move forward, obviously things change, things progress, and you look at it and you're like, hey, why not? Why not take advantage of that opportunity? I do wish it was, not called NIL, because we also know in some cases not necessarily NIL. It's pay for play, and if you have certain kids who've earned it, why not? I think what fractures the locker room more, and we're seeing it, more and more at the higher levels, is, the dollars that are going out for people who aren't proven. And, I think the locker fractures in those cases. So, for me, I'd say, and I tell our student athletes, take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, even things that us as our administrators doing in terms of, launching a collective, working with that collective, adding all the third-party apps, creating a NIL store for apparel, really focusing on, these kids understanding the brand and how to promote their brand to even lead to these opportunities. I mean, that's additional work on our plates as well, but, it's worth it when you have, that one kid has found success in doing it the right way.
All right, so your last year at Mizzou was 1995. So whether it's a football player, one of your teammates, or a basketball player at the time, who would NIL have been big for that Mark Alnutt went to Mizzou with?
Gosh, man, that's a good question. Only because his personality, and he was a young guy at the time. But Jason Sutherland probably got something.
Yeah.
He probably had like a Shiloh deal or something like that. Who knows? No, gosh, Corby Jones, why not? Freshman.
Okay.
Yeah. Corby would have had something. Devin would have had something. Devin West. So there's a few guys. Melvin Booker. I mean, you can name them all. There was and just again, just going down that memory lane, Gabe, and just thinking about all those guys that I was privileged to either be a teammate or be here when they were here. It's something else. But yeah, I don't know, Gabe. Who do you think? You think Corby would probably be top of the list, or you think Melvin?
Yeah, Corby. I think it would have been Melvin because basketball was bigger. Corby already had all his NIL deals. Corby didn't pay for anything in Columbia. Come on, man. I went out with Corby a couple times in college. He wasn't paying. So, all right. So last thing for you, man. Just what's from Buffalo's perspective? And look, I understand the goal for every team going into every game. We're going in to win a game. What's a good weekend? What's a successful weekend for you guys this weekend in Columbia?
Compete. Just compete. And we've been to schools like this before where their fans see it. Their fans, you're not walking away from a game 51-0, but maybe it's, you pull away at the end, it's 35-14, but gosh, you score, 2 touchdowns to seal the deal in the fourth quarter. Something that I think success for us is if we do not win that game is, we competed and people took notice of, gosh, this is a tough-nosed physical team that, to your point earlier, is going to, it's going to cause issues in the MAC.
Yep. All right. Well, Mark, appreciate your time, man. I know you got a ton going on, and look forward to catching up with you on Saturday at Faurot Field.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Gabe. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a good one. That is Buffalo Director of Athletics, Mark Alnutt, kind enough to take some time on Thursday afternoon by the time you see it, but take some time and join us on the show this week. Once again, brought to you every single week by Yuengling, America's oldest brewery. We encourage you, check them out, yuengling.com. You have to be 21. You also have to be 21 to buy it, but just go buy some, take some to the game, 6 o'clock. If you're not there, one more PSA, it's on ESPN Plus. Figure it out. You got 2 more days. I can't come to your house, but I can tell you where to find it. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you next time.